I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am trying to piece it all together. My wife Lisa and I have been married for over 8 years. We were pretty solid, or so I thought. She's always been a bit of a bitch, sharp-tongued, quick to dismiss anyone who got in her way, but she's also beautiful, confident, and charming when she wants to be. I met her at a college party, and honestly, I was smitten. We clicked almost instantly, and I thought we were set for life. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I never suspected she'd betray me like this. Lately, though, I'd started noticing little things. She'd come home later than usual, claiming she was working late or catching up with friends, even though she's not exactly the social butterfly. She also started acting weird around her phone, clutching it tighter, hiding messages, deleting texts. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just paranoia. But then there was the gym. She's always been into fitness, and she'd go a lot, especially with her new personal trainer, Mark. He's this big, muscle-bound dude, probably in his late 30s, who's always been friendly with me whenever I saw him at the gym. I'd never thought much of him, just a guy trying to make a living, right? But recently, Lisa started mentioning form corrections, going on about how she needs to get her posture right and avoid injuries. She'd leave for her sessions and I'd be left at home, thinking she was just working out. But then I started noticing strange things. She'd come back looking a little flushed, and sometimes she'd be quick to change the subject if I asked how her session went. She'd brush it off with a bitchy attitude, snapping at me for being nosy or overthinking everything. One night, I decided to check the security cameras, just to see what she was really up to. I know it sounds crazy, but I was desperate to understand what was going on. I knew we had cameras in the house, including some in the gym area, because I'd set them up after hearing rumors about gym thefts. I had access to the footage, and I figured, why not? I didn't expect much, honestly, but what I saw made my stomach turn so badly I almost threw up. It was late, around 11 p.m., and I was scrolling through the footage from the previous week when I saw her. In the gym's closed section after hours, Lisa was there, and she wasn't alone. She was with Mark. They weren't just working out, they were kissing, touching, and God knows what else. I couldn't believe what I was watching. My wife in that moment looked like she was completely lost in him. She was all over him, and Mark, what a pig, was just as into it. They didn't care about the cameras. They were going at it like a couple of teenagers. I watched as she climbed on him, tearing at his shirt, her hands grabbing his chest. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. That was the moment I knew she'd been lying to me all along. I saw through her bullshit, the form correction, the late nights, the strange mood swings, and now I had proof. I kept staring at the screen, feeling a mix of shock, anger, and a deep, burning sadness. How could she do this? After all these years, after everything we've been through, it was like the floor just dropped out beneath me. I didn't sleep that night, just kept replaying the footage in my head, trying to make sense of it. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew this wasn't going to be easy. Lisa is the kind of woman who's good at lying her way out of anything. But this was real. And now everything was about to change. The next morning I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus, and the images from the night before kept flashing back in my mind like some twisted reel. I kept telling myself I had to confront her, but how? I didn't even know where to start. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers right there in front of her. The other part just wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. But I knew delaying wasn't an option anymore. I had to face the truth, no matter how ugly it was. Lisa was already up when I got out of bed. She was in the kitchen, sipping her coffee, pretending everything was normal. Her bitchy attitude was on full display, snapping at the dog when he jumped on her, rolling her eyes when I tried to make small talk. She looked perfect, of course, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, but I saw past it all now. She was a liar, a cheat, a woman who'd been sneaking around with her personal trainer behind my back. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, feeling my fists tight and trying to find the right words. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Lisa," I said, my voice trembling, "we need to talk." She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "No," I said, voice low but steady. "I saw something last night, something I never wanted to see. You've been with Mark, haven't you?" Her lips curled into a smirk. What are you talking about? You're completely overreacting. Don't lie, I cut her off. I saw the footage, you and him in the gym after hours, kissing, touching. What the hell is going on, Lisa? She blinked, momentarily caught off guard, then her bitchy edge came back. Oh, so you were spying on me now? Nice, real mature. She crossed her arms, tossing her hair. You're just jealous because I've been working on my fitness and he's the only one who's actually helping me. Maybe you're just insecure. Insecure? That's rich coming from you. I saw you climb on him like some slut in heat. How could you lie to my face all this time? You were always so quick to accuse me of cheating, but look at yourself. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. You're delusional. I've never cheated on you. Mark's just been helping me with my form, that's all. You're imagining things as usual. I felt my blood boil. I couldn't believe she was gaslighting me, trying to turn it around. My mind raced, trying to find the right words, the right way to make her see how deeply she'd betrayed me. You've been lying, hiding it. I saw the videos. What else are you hiding? How long has this been going on? She looked even more irritated now. Stop accusing me of shit I didn't do. You're crazy if you think I'd cheat on you. Mark's just a trainer. We've never done anything outside the gym. I shook my head, feeling the anger bubble up. You're a bitch, Lisa. I trusted you, and this is how you repay me. You're just a slut who's been screwing around after hours in the gym. I should have known. You've always been good at hiding your true self. Her face twisted in annoyance and she snapped. You don't know anything. You're just a jealous, insecure loser who can't handle his wife getting some attention. Grow up. That was it. I'd had enough of her lies and her bullshit. I told her I needed space, that I couldn't be around her anymore until I figured out what to do. She just sneered and told me I was overreacting, that I was the crazy one. But I knew better. I'd seen enough. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and the ache in my chest was worse than anything I'd ever felt. I realized that this wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about respect, trust, and all the promises she'd broken along the way. I started planning what I was going to do next. I wasn't naive enough to think I could just forgive her and move on. No, I needed to come up with a plan. I needed to make her feel what she'd done, how betrayed I felt. I spent the rest of that day obsessing over every detail, every lie, every moment I'd missed. But deep down, I knew I was already making my decision. The woman I thought I knew was gone. This was just the beginning of something I wasn't ready for but knew I had to face. That night after she went to bed, I stayed up. I couldn't sleep, obviously. My mind kept circling back to what I'd seen, to the images of her with Mark in that gym after hours. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her lips on his, her hands gripping his chest, her face flushed with pleasure. It was like a punch in the gut, only it kept coming back harder each time. I kept asking myself, what the hell am I going to do? How do I even begin to process this? How do I confront her again without losing my mind? I knew I couldn't just let her go on like nothing had happened. That's not how I was wired. I needed some leverage, something she wouldn't expect. So I made a decision, one that I wasn't proud of but felt it was necessary. I started digging through her phone. I had to find out if she'd been lying about anything else, if maybe this was just a one-time slip or if she'd been cheating on me for weeks. I knew I was crossing a line, but honestly, I'd already crossed so many boundaries I didn't care anymore. Her phone was locked, but I'd seen her leave it on the kitchen counter a few times. I waited until she was in the shower, then I grabbed it. I quickly used her fingerprint which she'd left on the screen, stupid of her to keep it accessible, and started scrolling through her messages. I searched for Mark's name first, but nothing appeared. That was strange. I kept digging, checking her recent calls and texts, but I found nothing suspicious. That made me suspicious. Did she delete everything? Was she smarter than I thought? Then I remembered something. She mentioned a new gym app she was using to track her workouts. I looked through her notifications and found a few messages from an unknown number. When I opened them, my stomach sank. It was her, texting someone late at night, who I could only assume was Mark, calling him babe and my favorite. She sent photos of herself in workout gear, her body looking incredible but also clear signs of intimacy. I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. She had been sneaking around, even with me watching in the dark. I didn't know whether to feel angry, betrayed, or just numb. I took screenshots, then quietly slipped her phone back where I found it, pretending I hadn't seen a thing. The next morning, I decided I'd confront her again, but this time with even more evidence. I wanted her to know I wasn't some naive idiot who didn't know what was happening behind his back. I also wanted to see how she'd spin her lies this time. When she woke up, I was already sitting at the kitchen table, pretending to be calm. She eyed me with her usual bitchy glare, probably expecting me to just forget everything. I looked her right in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I've seen the messages. I know about you and Mark. I know you've been lying, sneaking around, and I've had enough." Her face twisted with annoyance, then she scoffed. "Are you serious? You're just being paranoid. You've got no proof of anything. You're making this up in your head like always." "Really?" I said, sliding her phone across the table. "You're full of shit. Here's proof of what you're really doing. I saw your messages, your photos. Don't even bother denying it." She looked at the screen, her face draining of color for a moment, then she snapped back with her usual bitchy attitude. "That's just some random bullshit. Someone probably hacked my account. You're nuts if you think I've been cheating. You're just trying to ruin everything because you're insecure." I shook my head. "No, Lisa, I'm done with your lies. I trusted you and you threw it all in my face. You're a fucking cheat and I want you out of my life." She narrowed her eyes, standing up with attitude. "You're overreacting. I don't need this shit. You're just jealous because I'm better looking and more successful than you. Maybe you should grow up and stop being so obsessed with my life." My chest was tight. I felt like I was about to explode, but I kept my voice steady. "You're right, maybe I am. Jealous. Jealous of the fact that you're out screwing some guy in the gym while I sit here, thinking I was married to someone I could trust. But I'm done trusting you now. Pack your shit and get out." She sneered, but I could see the cracks in her armor. She knew she'd been caught and she didn't like it. But she also thought she could manipulate her way out of this, as usual. That's when I realized I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent. Everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. And honestly, I felt every ounce of my heartbreak, rage, and disappointment collide all at once. I'd been played, used, and betrayed, and I didn't know how to move forward from this. All I knew was that my life was about to change forever. After she finally packed her bags, I stood in the doorway and watched her walk out. Her bitchy smirk was replaced with a scowl, but she still had that air of arrogance, like she thought she could somehow twist this around on me. I didn't bother saying anything. I just closed the door behind her and leaned against it, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. For a moment, I thought about calling a friend, someone who could talk me down, but honestly, I was too numb. I just stood there, staring at the door she just walked out of, trying to process what had just happened. In the days that followed, my mind was a roller coaster. I went from feeling angry and betrayed to downright devastated. I kept replaying that footage, those texts, her sneering face as she lied to my face that morning. How did I not see it? I always thought I knew her, knew everything about her, but she was just good at hiding her real self. She played the part of the perfect wife for so long, and I'd been blind to her true nature. I decided to take a step back and give myself some space. No contact, no calls. I needed to breathe, to think. But the truth was, I was spiraling inside. Every little thing reminded me of her, her perfume, her favorite mug, the way she'd always roll her eyes when I tried to talk about my day. It was like a punch to the gut every time. I also couldn't help but feel betrayed by myself. How did I not see this coming? How did I let her get away with so much? One thing I couldn't shake was the anger. That raw, burning anger that comes from feeling completely fooled, completely used. I wanted revenge, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. I needed to make her regret ever crossing me, but I didn't want to come across as some angry maniac. I needed to control this, to turn this pain into something that would teach her a lesson she wouldn't forget. So I started planning. I dug into her phone more, looking for ways to find out if she was still lying or if she'd moved on to someone else. I also started checking the accounts she'd been using, her social media, emails, anything I could get into. She'd always been sneaky, but I was determined to find out if this was just a one-time thing or if she'd been running a whole side life behind my back. I wasn't naive enough to think I could get all the answers overnight, but I knew I had to gather as much information as possible. Meanwhile, I also reached out to a couple of friends I trusted, people who knew about the situation but weren't involved. I told them everything, and strangely, it helped just talking about it. It felt good to unload all that rage and heartbreak onto someone who wouldn't judge me. They told me I deserved better, that I shouldn't accept being cheated on. I knew I was in a dark place, but I also knew I wouldn't stay there forever. It was around this time that I made a decision. I was going to take control of my life again. Fuck her, fuck the lies, and fuck the betrayal. I was going to rebuild myself, no matter how much it hurt. I started hitting the gym again, not just to get into shape, but to clear my head. I threw myself into work, kept busy. I didn't want to wallow, but I also didn't want to forget. I needed to remember that I was worth more than someone who'd cheat and lie to me. That's what kept me going, knowing I deserved better, even if it didn't feel like it right now. There's a strange sense of liberation in knowing I'm finally free from her bullshit. I don't know where this road leads, but I know I won't be the same person I was before I found out. I'm angry, yes. Heartbroken, definitely. But I also feel a strange sense of clarity. Maybe this was meant to happen. Maybe I had to go through this to find out who I really am. Either way, I'm not going to let her tear me down anymore. I have to rebuild, stronger, wiser, and more wary of the people I trust. Because at the end of the day, I keep telling myself, I'm better off without someone who cheats and lies. It's just going to take some time to really believe that again. A few weeks passed since she left, and honestly, it's been a roller coaster. Some days I feel numb, like I'm just going through the motions, and other days I get hit with waves of rage or sadness out of nowhere. It's strange how betrayal can do that to you. I kept digging into her things, her emails, social media, anything that might tell me if she's moved on or if she's still lying. Turns out, she's been trying to cover her tracks, deleting messages and clearing her history. But I knew better now. I knew her game. One night I came home from work exhausted and I found her email open on her laptop. I wasn't planning to invade her privacy anymore. I'd already seen enough. But curiosity got the best of me. I scrolled through her inbox and found a string of messages with some guy, not Mark, but another guy. They were clearly flirting, talking about meeting up, and exchanging explicit pictures. For the first time, I felt a deep, cold rage. How many other guys was she talking to? How many lies had I missed? The betrayal was worse than I expected. That night, I sat there staring at her messages, feeling like I'd been punched again and again. I'd always thought she was a bitch, but I never thought she'd be this manipulative, this dishonest. I realized how much I'd trusted her, and how that trust had been shattered into a million pieces. I wasn't sure if I should be furious or just devastated. All I knew was I couldn't keep doing this, living with the ghost of what we once had. I decided enough was enough. I wanted to make her regret what she'd done, not just by leaving her, but in a way that would hit her where it hurt. I started planning my revenge, carefully, quietly. I knew she'd be lying about everything when she found out I'd seen the messages. I wanted her to feel the same heartbreak I'd been carrying for weeks. I knew I couldn't just confront her again. I needed her to realize I knew everything. So I got creative. I set up a fake social media account, one that looked like a woman who was interested in her. I started messaging her, pretending to be someone else. I kept the conversation casual at first, but then I threw in the fact that I'd seen her messages, her pictures. I told her I knew she'd been cheating, that I had proof. Her reaction was priceless. She panicked immediately, started denying it, calling me crazy, saying she'd never do that. But I didn't back down. I kept pushing, making her realize I was one step ahead. That was a turning point. Her usual bitchy attitude faded for a moment, replaced by genuine panic. She started making excuses, saying it was all innocent, that she was just bored, that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I knew she was lying again. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and disgust. Satisfaction that I was finally exposing her lies, disgust that I'd been played this long. Meanwhile, I was also working out how to handle the real confrontation with her. I wanted her to see me as someone who's in control now, not the naive guy she once mocked. I told myself I'd give her a chance to explain, but deep down I knew she'd lie her way out of it again. I wasn't about to let her do that. This was about respect, about standing my ground. The emotional toll was heavy. I was tired of the constant roller coaster, hope, devastation, anger, and now a sense of empowerment. I'd been betrayed in ways I never imagined, and my trust in her was completely gone. But at the same time, I felt a strange relief. I was finally taking control of my life again, no matter how much it hurt. I realized that this betrayal had opened my eyes to the kind of person she really was, and that it was time to move on, whether that meant healing or cutting her out completely. Either way, I knew I couldn't go back to that old, naive version of myself. I had to become stronger, even if it meant starting over. The moment I finally saw her face when I told her I knew everything, that's something I'll never forget. She was furious, shaking her head like I was the crazy one, trying to deny it all over again. But I had enough. I laid out everything I had found, every message, every lie, every secret she'd been hiding behind her bitchy smirk. Watching her unravel in that moment, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and relief. It was like I'd finally taken back control of my life. After she stormed out that night, I realized I'd been holding on to a relationship that was nothing but a lie. I had wasted years believing in her, trusting her, while she was out screwing around, lying and pretending to be the perfect wife. I knew I couldn't go back. Not to her, not to that version of our life. It was over. And honestly, it was the best decision I'd ever made, even if it didn't feel like it at first. In the weeks that followed, I started focusing on myself. I hit the gym harder, not just to stay in shape, but to clear my head. I threw myself into work and reconnected with friends I'd neglected. Slowly, I felt the anger ebb away, replaced by a quiet sense of strength. I learned that I deserved better than a wife who lied and cheated behind my back, that I was worth respect, loyalty, and honesty. Honestly, I hadn't just lost her. I'd lost a part of myself, but in the process, I found a new resolve to rebuild. One of the biggest lessons I took from all this is that you can't ignore the signs, no matter how much you want to believe in the best. That gut instinct. Sometimes it's right, and when it's screaming at you that something's wrong, listen. I also learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it can also teach you to be more cautious, more aware of red flags. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But you can choose to move on, stronger and smarter. Looking back, I realize I was naive to think marriage was just about love and trust. It's also about respect, integrity, and honesty. If those aren't present, then everything else crumbles. I don't regret confronting her or digging into her lies. I needed that closure. I needed to see her for what she really was so I could finally let go. And I did. I've come to accept that I'll be better off without her, even if the pain still lingers sometimes. Now I'm focused on myself. I'm healing, learning to trust again, but more carefully this time. I don't have any illusions about love or marriage anymore. I just know I want honesty and loyalty. And I've learned that sometimes the biggest betrayal can push you to become someone stronger than you ever thought possible. I'm still working through it, but I know one thing for sure. I'll never be naive again. I'll never let anyone cheat me, lie to me, and walk all over my trust. Because in the end, the only person who can truly protect your heart is you. And I plan to do just that.